Hi, everyone. I'm Kevin Mangini with GivingWorks Studio, and this is my partner, Charles Coxe. Welcome to the second episode of Studio Sessions, where we interview people making a difference in the world of fundraising and storytelling and technology. And last week in our debut episode, we featured Nils Dallaire, the Senior Creative Director at SiriusXM's Studio Resonate, and he shared some amazing things, Charles, didn't he?
He did, and he talked a lot about his movie Future Folk, which was a lot of fun. But I was most impressed with some of the stuff he's working on now, with doing just amazing work in the area of audio storytelling, where they're really innovating in how they can use audio to convey a very attention grabbing message. Everything from aging cheese to hip hop that allowed him to create a special flavor of Cheez-It snacks, to using sound to influence how different people, or how someone's tasting two different coffees and they get completely different flavors based on what they're listening to in their ears, but it turns out it's the exact same coffee. So it was fascinating to hear not only that they're doing that scientifically, but also how he's able to use that to help tell a really interesting story and get a message across for different brands, which was fascinating.
Yeah, what really stood out to me, and everything was really around a very consistent theme, which was storytelling and consistency as a mode of building trust with an audience, and how also it was very important to him that everything have a hook. And he
Yep.
talked about it, whether it was a presentation or a promotion,
Yeah.
he's always looking for that hook. And I think that's one of the things that really stood out to me. That was the hook that I took away. So
Yeah, I was impressed where he talked about how he gives that same level of attention to a PowerPoint deck, right? Like that he's got to do, because he said that's an audience that you need them to pay attention to what you're saying. So whether it's a PowerPoint deck or a 30-second spot on the radio, then, he brings the same creativity to it, which is very impressive. And obviously we love talking to him because both of us worked with him back in the day on some really amazing projects for universities, but also in the TV realm in terms of TV marketing. And so it was great to catch up, since it's been a few years since we worked together, and reminisce about some of those projects, but also hear what he's got going on now.
yeah, no, I agree. So in this second episode, while we in our future episodes, we'll continue to feature some incredible people in those fields that I mentioned before. But we thought we'd step back a little bit and talk a little bit more about the projects that we've done ourselves. One, what we've done together. Two, individually. And three, just really give some background to who we are as
Right.
we continue to share these stories. So
Definitely referenced a lot of projects in that conversation with Nils, that we realized afterwards, wait, we lived those projects, so we know all about them, but our viewers may have no idea what we're talking about. So we should talk a little bit, because it really helped shape a lot of what we're working on today.
yeah, and when I think of the big shared projects we've done together over the years, building an audience for How I Met Your Mother, for 2 million audience on Facebook with a syndicated program that, was really unheard of for that kind of engagement. That was really one of the main teaching grounds for us, especially when we first met.
If I could just point out two things about that project. One, it was so successful. As you mentioned, it was for a syndicated program, which didn't have any social audience. We built it from scratch, but where we were in many ways competing with the existing social channels for the first run series on CBS. We actually had a meeting with a senior VP at CBS, who was so impressed by our work, and having him talk to us about how he was stunned that we were doing such a better job than his own team was doing, and they had the brand new episodes to work with, and we were talking about older stuff, which, to be fair, played into a lot of the work that we were doing and utilizing fans and talking about their favorite moments and whatnot. It allowed us to be a little nostalgic in how we treated it. But also, I just want to point out, Facebook did a whole case study about how successful our marketing was, especially on Facebook, because it had a people talking about this metric, which they no longer use anymore. But basically, that was how they were referring to virality at the time, of 20%. So 20% of the audience was on a regular basis across the board engaging with our content. They were commenting on it, they were sharing it, which was just, for them, and it was unheard of to have an entertainment property get that level of engagement.
Yeah.
So they did a whole case study on it.
In one sense, one of the opportunities there with WGN America was, as a syndicated brand, they didn't have faces to the network. They did not have stars that they could really use themselves. So giving them a marketing platform that was based around the fans and putting those fans on the air was one of the better things that you could do in that environment when you don't have your own faces. You have to create that, and I felt we were successful at that,
Yeah.
and that
You
led to a
mentioned
number.
Stars because we also did work for Stars, a different network.
We did Magic City season
Mhm.
2,
Yeah.
which was a lot of fun. And, that work with How I Met Your Mother and WGN America led to Stars. It led to USA, where we worked on not only Modern Family's launch into syndication, but also a number of original series launches from there. So the syndicated success allowed us to work into originals. And with that, you got to go on set at Manhattan in Los Alamos, and we shared a cocktail with one of the stars of Salem in
Yeah.
Shreveport, Louisiana. So
But yeah, that
those
was
were those were some fun times to be able to engage with the actors. So as we stepped forward and kind of grew into it. However, one of our biggest successes did not contain any physical actors. Out of the previous TV success, we were got the opportunity to work with FX and
mhm.
FXX on the launch of Every Simpsons Ever, which was the summer of 2013,
Oh,
2014, 2014.
you're dating.
No, it's 2014. I know it.
But yeah, that was a ton of fun. I mean, obviously another syndicated show situation, but we had a unique opportunity there where because FXX, which was a branch of the Fox family of networks, they were rebranding. I guess they'd been Fox Sports 1 before that, and they had all of the Simpsons catalog, every single episode plus the movie, and we had talked to them about this event where, in order to promote the network and that property, they would air every single one of those episodes back to back to back. And what we were doing to really make this a big event was being a fan just like everybody else watching it, but literally watching every single episode in real time with fans, live tweeting, putting out content, and never sleeping. Now we were able to do this because this was over the course of more than 12 days. We were able to we had a great team that was working on it. So it wasn't like you and I were staying up 24/7, but we
Well, I mean, now that we have to tell the story this way, sure.
yeah.
I was
We
going
did
to
not
go
stay up
with,
for 12 days straight. We had people who were helping us, but
I was going to take all the credit, but now I
uh,
guess we have to share.
I remember
One of my,
like Sean Cunningham do the overnight shift. He did like the 2 a.m. to 5 a.m. Live tweet every single night. He was happy to volunteer.
the stories he could tell. One of my biggest memories from that experience was the short runway in order to get it up. The campaign started in air probably mid-August.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember being away on 4th of July weekend and getting a call that we're going to move forward with FX and do this. And from that period of time, I think one of the most impressive things about working with you and Nils and the team was how fast everybody got to a place where the range of content that was created, over 600 images, custom images created, and they were trivia, they were listicles, they were, little known facts. There was a lot of beautiful content that engaged the audience right away. And what I was impressed to work with such a creative team that was able to settle in very quickly as to what the task was and create really smart content that fans would love. And we saw that. We went from 0 to 60,000 fans in 2 weeks on Twitter with the work we were doing there. So what are some of your biggest memories from that experience?
I mean, I was also impressed with how quickly everybody was able to get on board. But I mean, when you're dealing with a property like The Simpsons, and you've got a team of young people who've grown
Mm.
up on The Simpsons, it wasn't tough to ask them to watch a bunch of stuff in their spare time to come up with ideas. But it was great. I mean, the depth of content we created again for super fans, like we were really creating stuff that would appeal to the most devoted super fans, with the idea that by extension more sort of casual fans will get caught up in that hysteria and that excitement. So creating content that really went deep on each of the characters on The Simpsons. Part of the joy of watching The Simpsons is their world is so full with not just the main characters, but all these secondary characters. And so we were creating content about Ralph Wiggum, about Nelson, about Ned Flanders, and stuff. These characters that really fill out the show in an amazing way, and we were able to collect people's favorite quotes and do little shareable bits of social so people could not only, share their best lines with their friends, but also get a reminder of what episode that was going to be and when that's going to be on, so they could tune in and watch it live. Which is silly, right? This is a property. I mean, something we don't actually talk about much is this is a property that existed. I mean, streaming wasn't huge at that point, but it did exist in streaming, and it did also exist on DVD because we had all the DVDs that we were using to go back and watch episodes and create content. It existed out there. So the idea that you're getting people psyched up to watch it again in real time as a live event at 3 in the morning when that episode happens to be on is crazy. And yet the ratings were through the roof. Like, this is a network that I believe, if I remember correctly, it was 49th in the 18 to 49 demographic. It was the 49th ranked network. And we, over the course of the marathon, got it up to third. So among that 18 to 39, which is the key demo for advertisers, we got it to the third most popular network on TV, which was pretty remarkable for a network that also didn't have complete national spread too. There are a lot of areas where you couldn't get it, so it was impressive to have that kind of content. We had, I mean, some of my favorite moments were when we had actual writers from the show and celebrities who had cameos on the show engaging with our content, not because we like had some deal with them and they were required to do it, but they organically were loving getting wrapped up in the content too that was celebrating their work.
Yeah, I agree. One of the biggest takeaways for me was that we didn't screw it up. Like it's such a beloved property,
Right.
and we jumped in, and like I said, I know the feedback from the network. I know the feedback we, in general from Simpsons fans, and it felt like we didn't screw it up. But I mean that on the low side, like, okay, we know fans liked what we did. We saw the actors, we saw the writers, and we know that we added to a very successful story, and that's what we like to do. We like to. There you
Because
go.
we're fans, because we are fans. And I think that that was so key to the success of it. We weren't, and because you and I approach, when we're doing work for universities, we're doing work for nonprofits. Obviously, we can wear our heart on our sleeves. Those are great projects to help make the world a better place. So it's very easy to become a fan of those properties. And with these TV shows that we worked on, like, we immersed ourselves in the content, and it was content that we already loved. So it was so important to not approach it just as a marketer, as somebody who's trying to get as many eyeballs on it as possible, but to really think about the audience. What is the audience going to love? What's going to resonate with them? What are they going to want to share with their friends and embrace? Because if you just look at it as purely getting clicks, then you're going to fail. You really have to understand the emotion behind it to understand why people are willing to set an alarm for 3 in the morning to watch one specific episode when they could watch it much more easily in another way, because they wanted to be part of the club. They wanted to be part of that party. Like, it was like we were creating a 24/7 viewing party where people could interact and live tweet. They're like, oh my God, I forgot this part. Oh, I can't believe how much the animation has improved, all these different things. It was just great. And we were engaging with those fans, right? We weren't just broadcasting to them like the show, putting stuff out. We were doing some of that too, but we were actually going back and forth with them, which made them feel that they were interacting with the show itself, because
Yes.
we weren't claiming we were the writers or anything like that, but because of the content we were putting out, they really felt like they were engaging with the property. And that, not only worked during that segment, but I think it creates a deeper level of fandom that endures for a long period of time after the event is over.
I agree. It was just one of those fun experiences that the phone rings and all of a sudden you're driving 100 miles an hour towards something like this. And they're just very proud that we were able to pull it off.
Yeah.
What, switching gears from our shared experience.
Wait, sorry. One other thing I do want to mention,
Yeah,
very
of
proud of,
course.
is that we actually got into the Guinness Book of World Records for that project. The longest live tweet ever of a TV program, or of anything, actually. It was a long live tweet in history, which admittedly is a short historical period that they're referencing, but still, we got our place in the Guinness Book of World Records, Kevin. So congratulations.
Is my picture there?
They asked us to remove it because it was frightening the children.
I thought you were going to
No,
say it was a little too attractive for the. Okay, anyway.
not compared to Simpsons, sorry.
Which Simpson character would I be?
I believe we had we drew up some characterizations of ourselves, right? We have that art somewhere of us as Simpsons characters. But yeah, I would definitely say that you're a Lisa.
because of the great saxophone playing, of course.
Exactly. Or maybe you're more of a Maggie, we'll just put a pacifier in you and you never get to say anything.
Well, I think your desire would be for me to be the Maggie, but I'm not going to be your Maggie. I think it's a perfect time to put a capper on The Simpsons with
All right.
people visualizing me dressed up as Maggie with the. Um, so we thought we'd talk about a couple of our favorite projects individually, and I want to start with Purdue because obviously the success there is incredible. The impact is even greater. To be raising $420 million over 10 years, setting records those 10 years. Talk to me about how it first started and how it came to be, but what really worked there too.
Yeah, I mean, Purdue, I'm more proud of than anything else I've worked on because it was, doing work for them for 12 years, working with them on their Day of Giving and other projects as well. Just developing that relationship with a client is something that's a little rare in our industry, but being able to work with them that in depth and really work with a team who is just as devoted to the project. I mean, you and I have definitely worked on projects where, understandably, a client hires you to help market, helps advertise what their message or their product, and they want to set it and forget it, right? They have other stuff to do. They're hiring you for a reason to do it, and that's not how Purdue is. Purdue, they roll up their sleeves. They're all hands on deck. The whole team is part of the effort for Day of Giving, which is, that's a big part of why they succeed. But going back to how we started, they came to us. We had done 2 giving days for Columbia at that point, Columbia University in New York, that had broken the single day fundraising record for higher ed 2 years in a row. For Columbia, the first year was 6.8 million. And then we broke it the next year. So Purdue came to us. They said, we would love to do something like this, but we don't know what. We've never done anything like this before. We don't know what we want to do. And by the way, there's no way we're ever going to be that successful because, our alumni aren't as rah about the school as Columbia is. And I was like, wait a sec. Okay. So I understand you're Midwesterners and you're very humble, but I've seen Purdue basketball games. I've seen,
Yeah, but I think the only thing I would add here is you're going back to a model that's been proven by one university once
right.
or twice. So they don't have a history of doing it, right? So
absolutely, they didn't have the
until you
history
get
of
there.
having people. They had a history of people buying basketball tickets and football tickets, but they did not have a history of people giving back to the university in the same way. They felt that no, people tend to, come to Purdue and they get their degree and they're proud of their degree, as they should be. It's a great school, especially for engineering and several produce more astronauts than any other school. And they have a lot that they can brag about, but they felt that people weren't necessarily going to give back in the same way. And so they had, you know, typically Midwestern humble goals for the first year. And that first year we didn't top Columbia, but we did way better than they expected. One person said they'd hoped to raise 300 grand. Another person said $500,000. And they ended up, blowing way past that, 7.4 million. They were just thrilled, and I believe it was 7,500 donations. That was the key thing that they were really proud of, even more than the dollar amount, because the dollar amount, to be fair, when you're talking about universities, sometimes that can really get juiced by a major donor who just wants to be part of this effort and puts in a ton. But the having gifts from 7,500 different donors really knocked their socks off. They thought, wow, we never thought we would be able to reach that large of an audience and convince them to give on that day. An interesting postscript of it is a concern they had going in, and I've heard this from many universities, is a concern that if you've really convinced people to give on Day of Giving or a giving day or whatever, and to be honest, a lot of the messaging around those days is often focused on participation. So it's like, it doesn't matter how much you give, just be part of it. Give $10, give whatever. So there is a fear that you get people to give on that day, they won't give again over the course of the year, and you may be limiting how much they can give if you have another effort later. And they found the opposite. They found that actually they were getting people who had never given before or who were lapsed, hadn't given in many years. And they were wrapping them up in the fervor of this event. And also they were developing a habit of giving where the people would come back year after year, but they'd also be more interested in messaging throughout the year for other events, and they would give to support other things that were important to them. And that, to me, really spoke to the importance of stewardship of donors. So they didn't just, put out their hand, ask for money, and then go away. they developed a relationship with this audience where they were first, where we were having them communicate, like, what's the impact of donate? What is donation going to drive? How's it going to, what are the different areas it's going to support around the university, all different fields, what's it going to do for the School of Pharmacy versus the Honors College versus the football team versus cancer research, all these different things. So you could pick and choose what you wanted to support, what was important to you. And then you would get communication afterwards about what they were actually doing with that money. So you saw the impact of your effort. It wasn't just you're throwing money into a hole and, hopefully that goes to scholarships. I don't know. They would come back to you and say, we did 1,200 scholarships just for our school this year. And, here's what we're working on next. So then when other messaging came forward asking for stuff, people were more receptive to it.
Yeah, I think it really hammers home the story that I think we believe strongly, which is that regular communication, that
Yeah.
consistency is
Consistency is
important
key.
because and not only with the storytelling tools that are available, but people are inundated with messages. So if you're not in there telling them your stories of impact, then you're going to hurt yourself. And if you look at it from a standpoint of year round, one day can create a great deal of excitement and awareness that can have an after effect throughout the year. And I think that's what you saw. And I think knowing the story that you've continued growing the donors, can you talk about the growth of the donors from the first couple of years and where it is now?
Yeah, it grew every single year, even in COVID when they actually had to postpone on, normally their day of giving is at the end of April, and they had to, because of COVID and the university being shut down, it got postponed to September. So things were moved, the date was different, all the communication changed. That year it barely went up. It went up a little bit, but every single year the donor number has gone up and up and up, which has been amazing to see that, to go from that first year, because they understandably thought that there would be a ceiling, right? They thought, okay, we're not going to be able to keep increasing this year over year. But just this past year, there were 36,000 donors. So and that's in one day. That's the key thing to remember, is that's people who donated in a single day, in a 24-hour period.
Yeah.
And these are people who are now going to be receptive when you communicate to them about a capital campaign or a special, some other special effort. And just when you're communicating information about the university and its rankings, and they also have benefited. Actually, the thing that I'm proudest of in all of that, and I of course can't take full credit, but I take credit for helping support it in a time when education costs. I say this as a parent of 2 kids in college now and another one right around the corner. Education costs are going through the roof, right? Like all over the place, just things cost more and more and more. Purdue has frozen tuition 14 years in a row. 14 years they've frozen tuition, and they've managed to knock down costs on some other things with room and board and stuff like that. So in a practical sense, in some ways, it costs less to go to Purdue today than it did 14 years ago. You can't say that about anything else in the world. And this is a situation too when the university's rankings have actually increased in field after field. I mean, it was already known as an engineering school, a school that produced astronauts and Drew Brees and some other famous athletes. But it's all these other schools and programs at Purdue are boosting in their rankings as well. So it's been really amazing to look at what has helped make that happen. Involvement on Day of Giving, both in terms of outright donations that have provided money to help fund this. I mean, 2023 was $110 million in a single day. And as you mentioned, 420 million over the course of the campaign. But beyond that, also having more alumni and family and friends involved in the communication from the university makes for an environment that, it lifts all boats, right? Like everybody benefits from that. Students benefit from having a more involved alumni body who are now more interested in mentoring students, in helping with the interview process, and just being more involved with their alma mater. It creates more community, which creates more success for everybody involved.
No doubt.
And I can't say enough about Purdue. I just want to say, we're talking about my work on it, but the Purdue team and how hard they work on this, it really is all hands on deck. Because we've worked with some other schools where fundraising is seen as that's the development arm or advancement. They handle that. We you have to put in a special request if you want to get a professor to film a little video or something like that. And at Purdue, it's the opposite mentality. It's just like this day is a celebration. They have on-campus events for students. Students are having a party where they're wearing Day of Giving shirts, and for alumni to see that and think, oh, it's not they're not just asking us for money. This is an event we're all part of it. Really makes a huge difference. The president of Purdue runs around campus, does like a fundraising run where he's encouraging people to run with him around campus to get more attention and raise money. Like, how many schools do you know that where the president of the university goes out and runs with students on campus? It's really impressive to see.
Yeah, you can't guarantee that a president will always run, but I will say there's certainly a model for what it means to be involved and what it means to make this a campus-wide event. And again, we can bring best practices into the conversation, but we're really hoping to bring people this experience that shows them, look, this is how you really make this as impactful as it can. I know you worked with Purdue through 2023 and had set the world record for single day fundraising with $110 million in one day,
That was
along
my,
with,
my 12th year in a row of having the holding the world record for single day fundraising. So
did
very,
you get a belt? Did you get some sort of belt?
I should have one, right? I should have
Right.
one.
Working
I
on
should
it.
at least get a little statue on the shelf behind me. But no, it's I can't stress enough. It's a team effort, right? Like it's something like being able to work with a crew that is that dedicated is impressive. And I do want to stress that every school is different, right? Like you're not necessarily looking at a smaller school to rival Purdue for breaking a world record, but there's a lot of learnings you can take from what they've done that can be adapted. But the key is you got to look at what's right for your audience. It makes me think of like the work we've done with Princeton University. It's a very much smaller school, obviously very prestigious school, but with them it was more about just trying to, because they'd seen a dip in overall participation among alumni from years before, and so it was about utilizing social media especially and some competition between class years, as opposed to at Purdue, where it's competition between different schools at the university. Using that competition to drive more engagement and to get people re-engaged with the university, where they dropped off, and then we were able to get that number boosted again and drive the highest single month total in Princeton's history in terms of the amount raised for their annual giving program. But that wasn't for a day; that was for 1 month during their annual giving.
Right. And I think that goes to show you that that was, I know you've told me that it was more of an ambassador program,
Mm-hmm.
tapping people in the various years to be sort of reaching out to their years and making it competitive in the
It was all about
gamification.
peer pressure. Yeah, peer pressure from that, because yeah, you're going to listen in that situation again. Like I can't stress enough. Like every school is different. You got to learn what works for the audience of that school. And with Princeton, it was more about, we knew that people would be a lot more receptive to getting messaging from their classmate, somebody who was their class year, as opposed to just getting it from the faceless university organization, right? Like
Yeah.
having that, it's much tougher to when it's somebody you remember from your history class or from being on the hockey team together or something like that, and you think, oh, okay, now I'm actually going to read this email because I
Yeah.
recognize that name, and it makes a big difference.
Yeah, and I think it also shows again, like there are different ways to go about it, but it's important to be telling stories. I know the timing of Princeton was right after, it was in June, right after they had a whole series of reunions. So that was strategically aligned to take advantage of that feeling of having been recently on campus and a part of the activities. So
Big nostalgia trigger, absolutely.
yeah. Anything further on Purdue you want to bring up?
No, I think that pretty much covers it. I mean, it was great again to be able to have the whole university participate, where we would have a quick video from Drew Brees right next to students who are in the lab working on a pharmacology project, to somebody who's talking about working in the teachers college, or and getting to play up their history. And we had plenty of students talk to us about, like, oh, I didn't realize how much Amelia Earhart did when she was here, or I didn't realize some of the original Apollo astronauts went here. And so it was great to be able to make people feel pride, because it's easy for students and alums to get sort of focused in on their field and not think of the bigger picture. That was something that they were a little worried about at Purdue originally. They're like, yeah, nobody cares about Purdue. They just care about their specific degree that they got. And we realized that's not actually true. You just need to give them points to rally around. Like, who went to Purdue and doesn't want to be proud of Drew Brees, right? Like, who doesn't want to be proud of Neil Armstrong and Amelia Earhart and these names, like
Never
Orville
heard of these
Redenbacher.
people. I've
Orville
never heard
Redenbach and Purdue alum.
never
So
heard of any of these people.
we got to play out stuff like they invented the chicken nugget. Like we are all indebted to Purdue, which totally unrelated to the chicken company by the same name, I should point out.
Well done. Saved us a nasty letter from somebody, I'm
Exactly.
sure.
Exactly. But I think that's enough talking about universities. I'd like to talk more about TV, Kevin, because I've been prattling on.
Yeah, sure.
And you've done lots of TV work together, but I know I'm proudest of your work at MTV, most notably with Jackass, but I know that's not what you want to talk about.
You don't think that's going to work for the higher ed
Yeah.
people? I just want to answer that. I did work with Jackass, but I also worked with Nightly News. I worked, it's not, I'm not all.
You were not the one getting shot in the face with a t-shirt cannon or anything like that.
I got hit with an electric cattle prod on set of a shoot.
Intentionally?
I mean, no, they accidentally ran into me with a cattle prod.
I've been on your end, I'm sure.
Been punched in the unknown regions to talk about. Look, when you work with Jackass, you signed up for it, so I got no complaints. No, but my time at MTV was fantastic. But it really started with I started in the music business out of college. I got a job working for a sales and marketing company with Polygram Records, and right away I was thrown into working with developing artists.
Right.
And when you talk about wanting to make an impact, I fell in love with the opportunity to it reminds me of a quote from the movie Grease. If you can't be an athlete, at least be an athletic supporter.
That is a great quote. I was about to question why you were quoting from Greece.
I knew you were not knowing where I was going, Charles, and I still went there. I've always loved music, but I didn't have the talent or the focus. I was very sports oriented growing up. Well, when I got into working with music artists, and you work with a range of artists, so the superstars down to the debut artists, and you end up spending more of your time on the debut artists who need more conversation. They're not on the radio as much, things like that. So I grew a love for supporting artists at that time.
And you have a great face for radio too. So
I appreciate that, Charles. I know that you're started a video podcast series with a guy, and now you've told everybody not to watch. So you're great at promotion.
People can just be listening to the audio. That's great too. We'll take it.
Are you asking people to turn off the visual of me? Is that
whatever they need to do, as long as the message gets across, right?
So, through my 20s, I worked at record labels, and it was mostly on the sales and marketing side, record stores, even product placement, setting up ads, things of that nature. So I always had this sense of wanting to make an impact to help these artists along, but I was always doing it on a fairly small basis. Started with walking into a record store and hanging a poster, and then it's setting up a certain sale at a chain as you get older and you start managing a team.
Right.
But it was still, I wasn't close to the creative process, and I wasn't really in a position to make a huge impact, at least to the way I would have liked to. So when I got to MTV, and I came there to create compilation CDs and do work on the movie soundtracks, and kind of built out from there to work with advertisers and learned how to take programming and mix it in with the advertisers. And so I had the off chance to start a music brand called Advance Warning. It was not a highly rated show and not a promoted show. It was called Advance Warning for the sheer fact that I wanted everybody to know with the MTV brand that whoever we put on this show is somebody they should check out. That, back then the brand still had some equity. It doesn't have it now. But at the time, a stamp of approval from MTV meant something. So as I was getting to know all the different people at MTV and growing this little brand that was just a monthly show that we got sponsored from Sony PlayStation to keep on the air for a little bit. Growing that brand, got an opportunity to get in front of McDonald's and pitch them to take the show globally. And so, for me, wanting to make an impact and what I want to do for students and lowering the cost of education, is similar to the impact that I was hoping to make, which was help these artists set up their career. And so, it ended up airing in 400 million homes in 159 countries, MTV globally. It was their first global sponsorship.
Mm-hmm.
And I take a lot of pride in that because it was really an effort of love. Like I really wanted that opportunity to help. and randomly found myself in that position with an opportunity to spread the word on artists. So, when I think of my favorite projects, I think about impact. And when I think about impact, that story comes up for me because it was my shot to help. And, I wouldn't say it made a difference in the world of music, but for me, it was my best chance to help and be that athletic supporter.
I think you're definitely underplaying the exposure that you gave to these art. I mean, you're talking about what, hundreds of different artists, right? That you ended up featuring on Advance Warning, and you gave them visibility they otherwise never would have gotten. And yeah, having that MTV stamp of approval was, I'm sure, huge to so many of them.
Yeah, you know what? I couldn't believe I fell into this position where a few different things happened, and they're like, "Go forward with this show." You got to make sure it gets sponsored. So, having to work inside the factory to figure out how to make that happen on behalf of artists is something I'm proud of, and I enjoyed it, and I still love music. But when I think about what we're doing now and what I was doing then, that's the thread for me, is like, I can make an impact here. I saw what you were doing. I saw how much money was being raised. I saw how people were participating. I saw the freezing of tuition, the grants being covered at Princeton, and so that to me is that's huge impact. And this is our opportunity to help people. And that's the thread that runs through that experience that I had there, and what we're doing now. Um, there
On that,
was Go ahead. I was going to move forward to the one that got away, but
yeah, I was about to say that's a very serious and important note, and let's make an awkward segue to talking about something a little less a little less serious. Yeah, one that
awkward
got away.
segues are what I do, Charles.
Yeah, obviously we did a lot of work for TV networks, including USA. We did their Modern Family launch, and we did some originals for them to Satisfaction, I think was the
Yep.
name of one. But one of the most fun ones to work on was Playing House.
Yes.
That was a blast. But not every idea we had. I'm not going to say this idea wasn't gold, because I still say it was gold. But not every idea got approved, no matter how great it was.
No. Well, what can you quickly tell the premise of Playing House?
Playing House was we had two comedians who were living together as I believe one of them was with child and the other was not, correct?
Correct. It was her best friend,
Yeah.
and the concept was that she was moving in with her best friend to help her prepare for
Right. She's a single
motherhood.
mom. Yeah, needs some help getting things ready. Neither of them in any way equipped by experience to have children, but they learn along the way in hilarious fashion. So we were definitely inspired by the silly and irreverent and just sort of like laughs a minute, or laughs, multiple laughs a minute mentality of the show to try to come up with some content that we felt would resonate in social media in a similar way, and drive people to tune in to watch the show.
Yeah. If people are not familiar, the comedian pair of Lennon Parham and Jessica St. Clair are brilliant,
Yeah.
and the show was also Keegan Michael Key and a number of other special guests. It was very funny when it came to us. It felt like just an exciting opportunity because we could do the storytelling thing in any genre. We did it for Salem and witchcraft, and we did it for Manhattan.
Mhm.
But to do it for a comedy is a special opportunity to work with content and storytellers like Lennon Parham and Jessica St. Clair and the people at USA was exciting. And the idea that we pitched that did not necessarily make it through was a baby maker meme maker.
Yes. We should clarify that we were not making any actual babies in the process of doing
Mm.
this. So
You felt that was an important thing to say.
I just had to put that out there. These babies did not actually exist, but that is definitely for the best. The premise was that you would upload two photos, one of yourself and one of someone you just wanted to see what would happen, and it would. I mean, you see a lot of people nowadays using AI to generate baby images that don't exist. So this was way ahead of its time, Kevin. That's the problem. We were like 10 years ahead of our time on this.
I,
Um,
There
And it
was
was
also, I think there, look, there was a little bit of a tech build to have to pull this off. And I think, they just didn't want to go there. But it was to me, and we will share the picture of what we brought into the presentation, which was a wonderful look at what a child of you and I would turn out to be. And
missed
I have to,
opportunity.
I have to say, I don't know how somebody sees that picture and says no to the promotion.
So adorable. Coochie coochie
Right?
coo.
I mean, they should have just said whatever we have to pay, we're going to make this happen because clearly this is beautiful stuff. You made me look younger, which was great. But other than
Well,
that,
technically, it made both of us look a lot younger because it made us into a baby. But hey, you know what? They didn't want to do the app. Maybe they'll want to do a reboot of the movie Twins. Remember with Arnold Schwarzenegger and Danny DeVito? I'm the Schwarzenegger character. You're DeVito.
I'm pretty sure everybody would have thought that was what we were doing anyway. I don't think you can pull off DeVito, and I can't pull off Schwarzenegger. I would rather say I can't pull off Danny DeVito, but I could work it.
Yeah. Well, I think if either of us could be as funny as Danny DeVito, then that would be a huge success because he's. I don't want to sound derogatory about Danny. He's a riot. Love Danny DeVito. But this baby maker, yeah, I can't believe they didn't go for it. But it's both hilarious and terrifying at the same time.
Yes. So, we wanted to take this opportunity to go through a few stories, not make it too long, but give you a little bit of background as to some of the things that we've done separately and together. We're excited to, be launched and starting this conversation with people in development and advancement. And again, as we've mentioned, look forward to future episodes where we'll get back to having somebody more interesting to talk to than you and I.
We'll always have our
Anything
own stories to throw in there, though.
That's true. I mean, we could do this without recording it, and it would be
So
so fun for nobody. Anything else you want to add?
just hey, we're excited to get to have more conversations with folks. We've had some great ones so far. So yeah, we've got some other great guests in the queue coming up. So tune in for those upcoming episodes, and yeah, shoot us an email if you'd like to. But we're also happy to chat with people not on camera if you would like to talk about some needs you have or ways we might be able to help get your message across. Because obviously we have. Hopefully, the main thing that comes across here is that we have a great passion for storytelling and for helping everybody reach their the audience that'll best support their efforts. So that's whether that's in a day of giving or a baby maker app.
Well, I will say, as somebody who has a face for radio, I'm just still pushing it to be out here on video. It's not, it's not where I thought things were going, but look, here I am. So until next time.
Pleasure.